All right, so without further ado, today's RadResponder special feature webinar is on the new feature alerting. So what are alerts in RadResponder? RadResponder allows you to send notifications via email, text message, or push notifications, as you can see in the image on the right, to specific personnel when data is entered into RadResponder that exceeds a certain threshold. Right now we have alerts for field surveys, for your fixed monitoring data. If you're using ChemResponder, we also have alerts for chemical IDs. On the RAD side, we have alerts for spectra, and most recently we've added alerts for dosimetry. What that means, if you've seen the dosimetry feature, is that if a responder's accumulated dose exceeds a certain threshold, you can send a notification to them, a text message or an email to them or their field team coordinator, letting them know that they've exceeded a certain dose. As a RadResponder user, it is your responsibility to ensure that your notification settings are set up the way that you would like them to be set up. So you can choose your preferred method, email, text message, push notification. You can also choose to opt out of different types of information. So if you don't want to see an email when somebody requests an account because that's not your responsibility, you can opt out of that in the website. This goes obviously for any type of notification up to and including the event data alerts. So to do this, I'm going to show you the screenshots on the PowerPoint slide. Feel free to follow along if you have the RadResponder browser window open on your computer. You can follow along as we're going through this. So to configure your notification settings, you'll want to log into the RadResponder website. Up in the top right-hand corner, you should see your name. If you click on your name, you'll see this drop-down with profile, notifications, new user tour. If you click on notifications, you'll be taken to the notifications page. What you can't see here is a table that will show you the history of all notifications, all alerts that have been sent out to your account, either via email or text message or push notification. So if you were expecting an email from RadResponder but it didn't show up in your inbox, you can always come to the notifications page and see if the system actually sent something out. From here, to configure your notifications, you're going to click on that blue button in the top right-hand corner. At the very top of this page, you'll see the preferred default setting. So you can select your default to be email, push notification, or SMS, text message if you don't want to go through each and every category. There are over a dozen different categories of notifications in RadResponder just because there are so many things that the site does now. These range from account requests to sponsorship requests to equipment maintenance to alerting, and depending on your responsibilities, you may not want to receive notifications at all for some of those categories. In this example, since we're talking about event data alerts, if you scroll down to that category, you can select whether you'd like to receive these alerts via email, text message, or if you would not like to receive them at all. As always in RadResponder, once you configure that page the way that you would like it to be set up, don't forget to save your changes. All right, let's talk about how you would actually set up alerts in RadResponder as the event manager, the organization administrator. There are two ways that you can configure alerts. So just like we have standing partnerships at the organization level that copy down to event partnerships and standing field teams at the organization level that copy down to event field teams, alerts work the exact same way. You can configure these at the organization level if you always want the same people to be notified and you're going to use the same types of alerts regardless of the event. You can set them up there. If you're only worried about creating custom alerts on an ad hoc basis, you can skip this section and just set those up at the event level. So starting with the organization side of things, in order to set up default alerts for your organization, you do need to have some advanced permissions. You need to be either an administrator, a planner, or an event creator. If you're logged into the RadResponder website, you'll go over to your organization's page across that top navigation bar. And on the left-hand side where you see your menu for responders, teams, equipment, personnel, you'll scroll down to alert definitions and open up that page. From here, you'll see the list of all alert definitions. These are just the parameters for an alert that have already been created for your organization. At this point, you might see a blank table if nothing's been created. You'll also see a column for which alerts are enabled. Enabled just means, are they active? Can they be copied over to an event? You may have old alerts in here, and since that information has already gone out, we don't allow you to delete them because they're part of the historical record. So instead, those would just be disabled and they would no longer be applied to any events that you created in the future. To create a new alert, you're going to click on that green button in the top right-hand corner. If you don't see the green button, it's probably because you don't have the right permissions to create an alert. As with all of our pages in RadResponder, just a reminder that the red asterisk means that it's a required field. If you're missing that field, you won't be able to save your alert definition. One of the first things we'll ask you to do is select the data type. So again, you can select alerts for, or you can create alerts for field surveys, your fixed monitoring data, for spectra, or for dosimetry. You'll also see a field for priority. This priority field does not actually have an impact on how the alert is delivered. It's just information for the person receiving it. So we allow you to classify an alert as informational, urgent, or warning. At some point in the future, we may have the priority do something else with the alert, but that's not the case at the moment. Again, here's a list of the possible data types for which you can set up an alert. Once you select the data type, you'll have some different options. You'll see here that for a field survey, we'll ask you to choose a severity, so that's the threshold that's being exceeded. So if you choose background for your field survey, anytime a survey is put into the system that exceeds that background threshold, you will get an alert, or the personnel that you've chosen to get the alert will get the alert. Spectra work a little bit differently. So you can either get an alert anytime someone uploads a spectrum record to the website. You can also get alerts when specific isotopes are identified. And in both cases, field surveys and spectra, we allow you to click the ignore background option so that anything that's marked as background by the user will not trigger an alert, even if it crosses that threshold. There are a couple different places where you'll see enabled or disabled. You can do it from the create page, you can do it from the edit page, you can do it from the event details page. Once again, enabled means that the alerts will go out, disabled means that the alerts will not go out. You can also choose which personnel you'd like to notify. You can add as many people as you'd like to this section. Just keep in mind that if any of those people have opted out of receiving alerts, they won't receive those alerts even if you've selected them here. So their personal settings will always override anything else that the event manager does. Once again, make sure you save your changes before you move on. Once you save an alert, just like any other create form in RadResponder, you'll be taken to that items detail page. From here, you can go back in to edit any of those settings. You can delete the alert if it's never been used. If it has been used, your option is to disable the alert so that it can't be added to events in the future. You'll also see our typical exporting option that exists on all of our tables in RadResponder. And on the left-hand side, if you're not familiar, those magnifying glasses will take you into the details page for each of those records. All right, let's talk about alerting at the event level. The two work very similarly, just like field teams and partnerships, very similar setup. In this case, you need to be an event manager to either create alerts at the event level, copy alerts onto your event, or edit existing alerts. If you're following along on the website, make sure that you navigate out of your organization space and into an event. So you can select an event from the top bar. You can also, if you're on the RadResponder homepage, click on the event search button and pull up a specific event. On the details page for an event, you'll see a big button at the top that says enable alerts or disable alerts, depending on the current setting. Regardless of how those alerts are set up for each individual definition, if you click disable alerts here, it will turn off all alerts for that event, and vice versa if you enable them. Of course, you do need to have alerts enabled on the event for any of them to go out. By default, we do enable alerts. The only time that we automatically disable alerts is for testing and training events. So if you're creating a testing and training event, make sure that you go in here and manually turn on your alerts on the event details page. All right, from here, you'll again have that menu on the left-hand side, just like you do under your organization, and you'll navigate down that list below your different types of data, below reports to the alerting section. And from here, let's open the alert definitions page. So here you can add alerts that were created at the organization level by clicking copy them over. This is the same way that our standing field teams work. You also have the benefit of copying alerts from any organizations on the event. So, if you have 5 or 6 partners on the event, they all have alerts set up the way that they want to receive alerts, or they want their field teams to receive alerts. You can add all of those to the event and they will not conflict with each other. Once you select the organization, you'll click copy definitions. It will pull over any of those enabled definitions that are under the organization level. From here, if you've copied over 3 and you only want 2 of them, you can go in and enable, disable different individual alerts. You can also edit them. You can customize who receives them for this event, whether or not they're enabled. You can change the severity. Anything that you put in when you created that alert, you can still customize on the event level. You can also create ad hoc alerts. So there's something you haven't thought of, or maybe this is just your go-to. Maybe you haven't set up anything at the organization level. This is where you would start then if you're trying to set up alerts for a specific event. It would be just that green create alert definition. Something to note on the event level, you can choose personnel, any personnel that are on the event. So you can select to notify people from outside your organization. When you're setting up alerts under your organization, you can't automatically add folks from outside your organization in RadResponder. If at any point you've corrected or over customized your alerts, you can always click the reset to default option, and that will reconfigure your alerts so they match whatever the organization setting was. Once again, you'll have the enable all, disable all buttons there. We have these in so many places just in case for some reason the alerts have been set up poorly and now you're receiving an alert anytime somebody puts in a background measurement, and you want to disable them all so people stop receiving emails and text messages while you can go in and figure out exactly how the alerts are configured and why they're causing so many notifications. All right, I'm going to walk you through kind of what it looks like to receive an alert. It's a little bit tricky since we're doing it in PowerPoint, but hopefully this will give you a good idea of what it looks like. I strongly encourage you to test this out and kind of walk through this process before you try to use it for an event. So in this event, I'm looking at my alert definitions page. I have made sure that the alert that I want to test is enabled. That's the first step to making sure that this goes properly. In this case, I've set up an alert for a field survey. It's going to ignore background measurements. So on the mobile app, you have that option. You can check that box that says, yes, I'm recording background. Those will not trigger an alert. But whenever I receive a field survey that exceeds this low threshold, I will receive an alert. And just a note on these thresholds, since we're not covering them in this webinar, that's a separate webinar and there's separate materials on the website for that. Those thresholds are across all different radiation types and units. And that's why we use the thresholds instead of having you put in 10 microR per hour. You put in 10 microR per hour here, we may not be pulling alerts for data that's in R per hour or MR per hour or MREM per hour if somebody's put in the wrong units. So that's why we're using the thresholds here instead of having you put in a specific number. All right, so I know that whatever my background threshold was for this event, 1 MR per hour exceeds that background. I'm going to go ahead and create that survey either via the website or the mobile app, it doesn't matter which one, and save it. On the actual survey details page, if you're in the website, there is a section, if you scroll down below related data, to the very bottom of the survey details page where it says alert details. And you can see that this data point that I just saved has triggered an alert down here. Current status is raised. I can open up the alert details. Again, this will tell me, who it was sent to, what time it was sent out. If anyone has, commented on it, it will tell me, what the priority was. Again, the priority doesn't mean much, it's just for situational awareness. You'll also see these timestamps over on the right-hand side for when it was raised and if it was paused. This is kind of a unique scenario, but say you're using one of those Bluetooth-enabled pieces of equipment that's collecting data every second, and you're standing in an area where you're collecting multiple measurements that exceed this background threshold, and you're getting 1 per second to the RadResponder site. We are not going to send you 1 alert per second to your phone or to your email. So if the site notices that multiple alerts are being raised in a short period of time, we will hold them for 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, and then send them out as 1 email and say, here's a list of all the alerts that were raised in the past 5 minutes. All right. So on the receiving end, again, the personnel will receive the alerts based on how they have configured their own notification settings. So if they've unsubscribed from alert event data, they won't receive these at all. If I've set up, to receive an email and a push notification, I will get both every single time an alert is raised. You'll notice that the notification you receive via email or via text message is not very informative. So that's for, security and privacy reasons. We can't guarantee, that somebody's not looking over your shoulder or that it hasn't gone to the wrong person. So in here, we'll give you the event it came from, that priority. If you've named it, something indicative, that can be a clue, but we won't actually put the reading in here. We won't tell you what the identified isotope was in the email itself. You'll have to log into RadResponder to see what that is. And you have 2 options here. There's 2 links. You can either go to the alert details. If you're confused as to why you're receiving this alert because you know what data was put in, you can go to the alert details. That will take you back to this page we just looked at. Or you can go to the data point details if you want to see what measurement caused this alert. In both cases, that will open the browser. So even though you're receiving the notification on your mobile device, it will open up this information in a browser in the website, and you will need to log into RadResponder in order to see it.